Okay, welcome everyone. This is a Finance Committee meeting. Today is October 27th, 7 o'clock. We are meeting virtually on Zoom. Our meeting agenda, just go over very briefly. We have meeting minutes from October 6th that we just received today. Reserve fund stands at 50,000. Public forum is temporarily suspended due to the COVID-19 limitations. Contact information is available if anyone from the public wishes to contact me or the Finance Committee. I encourage you to send an email, or you can call my home phone, 781-447-4366. Old business today, we are going to look at a line item transfer, which is now a reserve fund transfer from the Board of Health. That request came in today. We're going to look at meeting with our initial meeting with budget managers. Council on Aging is at 7:15. Technology is at 7:30, and the town accountant will be at 7:45, give or take. Under old business, we've subcommittee reports. We have the Building Facilities Capital Expenditure Committee, the Regional Agreement Amendment Committee, and the Middle School Building Committee. So we may have some reports from those. And I still leave on for place setters, the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District Assessment, non-mandated busing. No communications, and our meetings are going to be posted on the agenda as we move forward. So with that, I would direct the previous minutes, since they came so late. Thank you, Samantha, for forwarding those. That's October 6th. I would imagine it would take some time and look at them. I'll entertain a motion to table them to the next meeting.
I move to table.
We have a motion and a second.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor of moving, we'll postpone and table the meeting minutes to the next meeting. Anybody object? Okay, very good. All right, like I said, the budget managers, will have them come in. It's gonna be the same. I know in meetings past, I have, we put them on the schedule for 7 o'clock. It just gets a little confusing when we call to order, especially if we have meeting minutes. So I started the first budget manager meeting at 7:15 purposefully, so to give us a little bit of cushion. So this gives us an opportunity to talk a little bit about the structure of because we haven't done budget manager meetings on this virtual platform. So it does, it's going to be a little bit different because typically we meet with the budget managers, we get their budgets. Then, when they leave or in a subsequent meeting, we talk a little bit about the budget without the person here. We, talk about how their budget affects or impacts the other lines in Article 2. So I would suggest that we kind of do the same thing. I mean, it's like, during the discussion, certainly ask questions, get all the information you can. But I think as we move through the budget process, just realize that most of the final discussions on the budgets will be discussed with the budget manager has left the meeting. Does that make sense? So like I said, I'm certainly open to any ideas on how we can make this process a little easier. I don't know when we can expect to go back to live meetings. Lisa, while we have you, can we just get maybe a little bit of a sense, if you have it, on when town meeting or town hall will be open for public meetings?
So basically, because of the uptick in COVID cases, we talked about it at the last selectmen meeting, that right now the town is still in the yellow, but we are surrounded by towns that are in the red, and it's speculation forecasting that we will be in the red pretty soon. I apologize, my trash is being empty, so I didn't want to subject to the noise. But right now, I mean, I think the selectmen think that everything is going okay. People are getting the services. Everything's being done. People are not not getting services because town hall is closed. There's just a lot of unease about opening the town hall right now, given that the cases are increasing. They're up,
Okay.
there's a large uptick. So as far as changing back to in-person meetings, I don't see that anybody doing that anytime soon.
Okay, all right. Well, I think if we have an idea that all of the budget manager initial meetings, for that matter, will be virtual.
Yes.
I would say that based on that. Okay, very good. So Mary, welcome to the Finance Committee meeting. We
Hello.
appreciate you taking the time. You are the first person in on our initial budget meetings, so we appreciate you being here. And we know, you're just getting started here, so we'll try to take it easy on you a little bit. But
Thank
if you have any questions along the way, you have a liaison to the committee, and you can certainly call me at any time. Ken, the accountant too, has been very available as we move forward. I was meeting with Lisa earlier today, and we talked about the fact that, it's going to be a little different. We're going to, hit some bumps in the road through this budget process because, typically, town administrator was a little more hands-on with the budget. So saying that, we welcome you. And so typically, if you want to start off, just giving a little bit of an outline of your budget, that's a good place to start. And if you, maybe we'll go around the board because you're probably not familiar with all the members of the committee. Most of the committee members' names are up here on the screen, I would say.
No, I know everybody.
You do?
Yeah, I know everybody.
Okay, great. All right, so why don't you go right ahead and present your budget as you have presented it to Ken.
Okay, so when you say present, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, you're up.
Oh, are you talking about Mary?
Mary, yeah.
Mary's here. Yeah.
I'm so sorry. So sorry.
That's okay. So obviously I've never done this before. So am I just giving you, like, I have my salaries, my expense line, like just giving you that? Is that how I go about this?
Yeah, so John can share your budget and put it up here on the screen if you want to go line by line. That's typically how we start.
Sure.
Okay, put me on the spot.
Sorry, John.
I'll get it. All right.
All right.
Okay, so you submitted your budget and you submitted
did.
your employee list. So if
I
you
did.
want to start with line 210.
Okay, so on line 210, that is my salary, which is leveled at the same of what it is this year. So it's 69,488. My administrative assistant line is going to be lower actually because it's a little less on the, my assistant just actually retired this past week. So I have a new one that just started. So that's based at her salary that she's going to be at coming in, which is a little bit lower. So that reduced that line. So my administrative assistant was in 2021 at 43,661. And going forward, it'd be 37,524. My drivers, it varies. So that one, the line I just left the same. I didn't really break it down because it varies depending on, who's driving, what trips, so on and so forth. Obviously with the virus going on, it probably will come in lower than what it's been in the past. All said and done in the end, just because we don't have as many trips going on. My expense line is just the same, 1450. That's line 214. So it's this level funded at 1450. My clerical line's a little bit, actually it's lower there. What's that? You know what? I gave an amended one. I'm sorry. I gave an amended one to Ken, so it doesn't look like you have the right one.
Okay.
My clerical line 215. The 2021 35,134 is correct. The requested is actually, I have 37,001, and that's because, again, on the assistant position, it was voted under the selectmen's meeting to bring them onto the pay matrix that the rest of the town goes by. So my clerical currently are not on that they're at 19, like 23 an hour. So going forward, it hasn't been voted, but I had put it in there at the level 1, step 1, which would be 21-24, which then based on the 2 people that I have working came out to the 37,001. So it was actually, instead of a decrease of 1635, it was an increase of 1867 for them.
Excuse me,
And-
Mary, I can change my share here. The Article 2 that Ken provided does have your updated numbers, so let
Oh,
me take a look at
okay.
that.
Thank you.
That's that one. There you go.
Mary, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
You recently appointed,
I'm sorry.
Very recent.
very recently.
Yes.
Congratulations on your post. I'm happy
Thank
for
you.
you. You're a great person and a
Thank
great fit. If you ever need anything, let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So my last line is my outreach coordinator, line 216, and that one shows down a little bit, but her salary is the same. So I'm assuming that has to do with the split of the weeks, like how the year ends.
Yeah.
So she was at 34,663, and based on this year, I had 34,442, which shows a decrease of $221. But again, I think that's probably based on how the year ended by a day or so. So anyhow, overall, my shows me coming in down $4,491 from last year.
Okay, and
Decrease.
very good. Anybody have any specific questions on the budget aspect? So just generally speaking now, about, assuming the role, you're brand new at the position. John, you could probably put that screen down now so I could see everyone. Just thinking, for the future, do you see anything as you're coming in that kind of strikes you about the Council on Aging or the direction, maybe looking at a broader picture? As we move forward, we're looking at creating a little bit more of a long-term look ahead, with the strategic planning. Do you see anything in your department that kind of strikes you as being deficient or
Well,
needs improvement?
Being so new and being that we're in the coronavirus, I haven't had people in to see everything in motion, but I have had a lot of people, in the past. I know they talked about the size, that we're limited in size. A lot of other senior centers in neighboring towns that have bigger centers. Some have built new centers. So they have more room to do more activities. Like, we're really limited to basically kind of one room. So other places have where they have a room where they might have an exercise room, then they have activities rooms. They might have another room that they have like movies or whatever. So they have more space. So I know that's a constant challenge. I don't know how that will play out down the road, but I do know that space is always an issue here.
Right, and understood that, in the COVID environment, it's hard to compare. But I can think, speaking at length with the last Council on Aging director, I mean, she left pretty exasperated that, there weren't a lot of things that were available to the seniors. I mean, she was almost deflated by the time she left. I don't know if you did a pass down with her at all, and talked about some of the challenges, and they're really born out of economics. I mean, your budget is limited. There's only so much you can do with the amount that you have. So I think I'm just really what I'm getting at is if you could think of long-term, how you could see the seniors benefiting from some changes or some, additional resources, if that would improve. Obviously, the facility itself has its limitations, as you said yourself. So, I guess if you could, as you're moving and learning the various parts of the job, I would just ask you to keep in mind on how we can move as a community to serve our seniors better. That's all.
Okay. Definitely.
Does anybody have any questions, comments for Mary? Questions on the budget, any of the employees? All right. Seeing none, this is the initial meeting. Sometimes we meet multiple times with departments. Again, you do have Ralph as your liaison right down there, and he's more than happy for you to
Ralph.
give him a call and talk about anything related to the senior program. And as again, certainly reach out to me if you have questions as we move forward. But we'll keep you updated as the budget discussion moves forward. We sometimes have to, take a look at the overall budget and how that affects your budget that you submitted. Sometimes it has an effect, so.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions
Thank
for
you,
us, Mary?
everybody. Nope, nothing. And just on what you were saying, I really hope to grow the program. I know you said that Barbara seemed deflated at the end and so forth, but I'm really hoping that with the new assistant and myself, that once we can get going and we can get operating at full steam, that we can really try to grow things. So have high
Excellent.
hopes.
Good luck.
All
Thank you.
right. Thanks again for coming in, and we
Good
look
job,
forward
Mary.
to working with you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
All right. So the good news is we're a little bit ahead of the schedule for the agenda. We could probably move to the discussions related to subcommittees. So Building Facilities Capital Expenditure Committee, Dave, do you have any of an update that you'd like to provide the board?
Sure. Our last meeting was 2 weeks ago. We had Bruce Martin and Dennis Smith in with DPW. They provided us with Environmental Partners' proposal for a feasibility study for a DPW building. That feasibility study is going to include an architect, a building style and amenities, and an estimated cost of what they would anticipate that building to be. They're hoping their schedule is to be, they're hoping for to be done before May to allow for that information to be out there and potentially for allow for a warrant article for a DPW building. Emails, all department heads have been notified that our committee is moving towards being in compliant with Article 38 of the special town meeting of 2015, which established our committee and provided deadlines, timelines, and we're hoping to have any further. I've asked department heads to provide any capital expenditure requests to be forwarded to our committee by October 31st. And so far, the only ones that we have received is from the fire department. And then that's it. That's it for our committee.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Any questions for Dave, Capital Committee? All right, very good. And the Middle School Building Committee. John, you want to talk a little bit about your initial meeting?
Yeah, sure. We had the meeting, pretty much kind of an introductory thing. We had it in the music room down at the Whitman Middle School. It was kind of a tough venue because it was lots of echoing and all that, but we fit us all in. It was, there was video done on it, so the video is up on YouTube. Fred Small was voted to be chairman of the committee. Dan Cullity was vice chairman, voted to be vice chairman. We talked about some of the documents that the MSBA needed to be filed. And so far we filed 4 documents, and they're basically a lot of, there's 2 documents coming up in November that one is kind of the capital. Again, I don't know, Lisa, do you remember what that was? It was like the capital, and I can find it in a minute, but pretty much all of the paperwork is being filed by the district. Ernie Sandlin, who's amazing. That guy is incredible. has handled it up to a point, and it's basically just, you know, them asking for information and us giving them their information that they asked for. We don't meet until December. Again, I think December 3rd or 4th, something along that lines. The two required documents the district will file. You know, they said at the beginning, there really isn't a whole lot going on. So, I mean, the fact that we're not meeting for a whole month kind of says that, but once we get going, I think we'll get pretty busy.
Okay, excellent. Was that DCAM, the document you needed to file was it with DCAM?
Yeah, give me a second.
It doesn't really matter. I just thought I'd. throw
I'll
that
look
in
it
there.
up while we'll move on, and when I find it, I'll let you know. I can, there's a whole list of how they need to be filed, and give me a second.
But the discussion really isn't even to the point where you're talking about, building and renovating, building, or where it's going to be. even,
No,
right?
I mean, I did ask the question if it was decided that, if it was decided we were going to build a new building, was it a foregone conclusion it would be currently where it is now? And the answer was no. So if the decision is made that we're going to build a new building, it could go anywhere in the town that, you know, town land, so, which doesn't surprise me, because anybody that's been down in the back there know it's pretty wet behind that school. I don't, you know, even in the woods, those fields are
Yeah.
better now, but they used to be horrible.
Well, we're in a drought too, so I don't think that's any indication. Go ahead, Lisa.
That document that they were looking to file was the MCP, or the maintenance and capital planning form.
Right.
They need to file that no later than 11/27/2020. So I think that's the form you were looking for.
Correct.
Okay, very good.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Lisa.
Anything else for the school building committee? All right, we look forward to the additional information after you meet in December. As far as the regional agreement amendment committee, nothing is moving forward with that. I have heard no, obviously, school committee is pretty involved in getting the school year up and running and all the things that are related to that. So, but I hope that we begin to finish what we started as far as the regional agreement goes. You know, it's vital, I think, for the future, and honest communication with the district and the neighboring town of Hanson, that we have a completed regional agreement that's ratified by both towns. So I look forward to reporting when we have our next meeting. Go ahead, Dave.
You're muted, Dave.
With both towns ratifying their amendments for their assessment process, what else is remaining for that committee to do?
Well, the language has to be straightened out as far as, so it's a legal document. Right now, it doesn't have everything it needs to be approved. So, I mean, it's closer than it was. If we pick up where we left off, we don't really have a long way to go. But, it's just hanging out there. So I don't understand what the delay is to get the final pieces of the puzzle together. And like I said, get a signed agreement. We have something to go for the future. Any other questions or comments or suggestions to bring forward to the Regional Agreement Amendment Committee? If something comes up and you think of something, don't hesitate to reach out if there's some suggestion that anybody wants to make. So I see Josh is coming in right on schedule. Josh, we appreciate you coming in at the last minute here, taking the place of the clerk who rescheduled. So you did send a bunch of information. We do have your budget. John, do you want to share the technology budget?
Yeah, getting there.
Josh, do you need an introduction to any of the members of the committee? It's pretty much the same as it was last year. Josh, if you're talking
Josh,
to
you're
us, you're
you're muted.
You think he's in another meeting?
There we go.
No, there we go.
Oh.
Now, there he is. Now we get him.
Just
Sorry.
checking.
The technology guy doesn't know how to unmute himself on
Oh.
Zoom.
Yeah,
Come on,
no.
Josh.
Too many things
Come
going
on.
on.
No, like I said, Josh, yeah, we appreciate you filling in. What we're trying to do is get these initial meetings done before the first week of January because, you know, it's always been difficult when the initial budget meetings run late. And then if in fact we needed another meeting with departments, we really don't have time to put it together before town meeting. So again, if somebody cancels and we can fit somebody in, it really makes it better for us. So I do understand, and your email was very clear that the information that you provided may not be the final budget that you're going to run with, but you know, it's definitely good to have something to start with. So
No, for sure.
if you want to just run through your budget. So if we're looking on the complete Article 2, the technology starts at line 60. If you want to pull that up.
Line 60 for the technology director. So that's my line. I believe from what I'm hearing that all the department heads are putting a flat 2% in for the increase across the board. So you know, rather than obviously start at 0 and try to increase to 2, I think we're staying at 2 obviously. And if we need to obviously go lower, we go lower. But it's best obviously to start high, I guess, than start low.
Yep.
The new position that we're looking to add, I mean, at this point in time, I transitioned over from the school district now 8 years ago. And, you know, honestly, I know Frank recently retired. Frank was obviously, you know, doing quite a bit before I, you know, transitioned over to the town and sort of laxed off a bit, you know, as we, you know, that transition moved on. You know, with his retirement, there is no sort of backup, if you will. I know John and I talked about this. And, you know, I want to, I guess, look at this as like, you know, I've been flying the plane now as the pilot for 8 years. You know, I sort of had a co-pilot, if you will, a little bit. And now I have no co-pilot. I'm pretty sure, you know, in talking to Lisa, she's not going to get into the same sort of aspect that Frank was. And Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong, but and nor should she. I mean, I think at this point, we really need to, you know, focus on, you know, our needs moving forward. We've added quite a bit of, you know, software services and so on and so forth, whether it been from grants or, you know, raise an appropriation at town meetings. But unfortunately, we have not added any particular staffing to support that. And, you know, most recently, we're adding all of these devices, you know, due to this, you know, pandemic situation. And again, you know, we have, you know, we're buying, you know, equipment and acquiring services such as the online permitting and so on and so forth, which is great. And we probably should have done that, you know, several years ago. But again, there's just a lack of, you know, resources internally. And I think, you know, a lot of the department heads, I think, are, you know, I think every department head, if you will, is in agreement with me as to, you know, we really need to do something, because if we don't, eventually we're going to crash and burn. And I have to relate back to the, you know, situation that I was in, you know, working for the school district when we had sort of that same thing happened, if you will. We were supporting both the towns and the schools at the same time, and got to the point of destruction, if you will. And we lost, you know, I'd say 75 to 80% of the staff. And at that point, there was probably, I think, you know, when I had, you know, transitioned from the school to the town, there was probably maybe three people left out of the team we had, which is probably 7 or 8 people at the time. So again, I don't want things to fall apart after what we've done over the past 8 years. And I think it's important to realize that, you know, we need to have the staffing levels. And I think, you know, from a public safety, you know, example, I just received a message this evening that they were having trouble with, you know, one of the tablets in the cruisers. Unfortunately, I'm preparing for the finance committee this evening, so I really can't, you know, do too much to assist them. And unfortunately, there's not someone else to go and try to, you know, tackle that until the morning, or, you know, potentially if I have time this evening after the meeting. So again, just, you know, plain examples that unfortunately we're, you know, up against the wall here. GIS has remained the same, 15,000 across the board. Nothing has changed at all on that line. The generalized expense line, we've, increased, typically, I think more than I would have liked to, but unfortunately with the online permitting, which is, I provided an example to you on the breakdowns as far as to where they are. As we started last year with the FY21 budget, you folks, along with the taxpayers, approved the building permitting. So the building permitting itself essentially encompassed annual fees that go along with it. So there was basically, $7,320 or so of annual fees that go along with the actual services. So, the 15,610 is encompassing the online permitting as well as the selectmen's and the Board of Health licensing and permitting that we're, hopefully looking to add with the CARES Act moving forward here. So I figured, again, I'd start at the high end and obviously reduce it if we find out that in fact, the CARES Act covers the entire, thing for the year, then essentially FY22 will only be potentially paying zero on that line if in fact they cover everything. Now, if they don't cover everything, then obviously we're going to have to reevaluate that line. So we could potentially, be saving ourselves $15,610 if in fact that's not the case and they cover, 100%, which is hopefully, what's going to happen moving forward.
Okay, so that's a review of the budget. So being at 27.7% above last year, obviously that, that's a little concerning, the number. Obviously we're trying to keep budgets within a certain parameter because we have some directing from the Madden report that's giving us a basic roadmap of where we need to be for the future. So understandably, you have some unique expenses this year, and adding the additional person is going to certainly add to your budget. So I can see how the numbers are a little askew. So the person that you're looking to hire, would that person have the same abilities to do some of the things? You mentioned the example of the laptop problems in the cruiser. At the rate that you have in here to bring someone on, do you think that person would have the requisite experience to do something like that?
I mean, the person that I'm bringing on is going to be a low end person to, manage the day-to-day situations that go on. Obviously, the basic knowledge should be there enough to at least get, initial troubleshooting done to the point of obviously there's more involvement and certainly escalating it on to, a vendor or whatnot. But again, it's just not a set of hands, another set of eyes to actually, accomplish tasks that need to be done. Sure,
understand.
I mean,
would it also be somewhat of a looking forward if in fact you at some point were to retire, this person would be able to assume your responsibilities at some point? Is that kind of on,
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, obviously, if the person stayed here, and that's, I guess, one of the other big, issues is that unfortunately, the town has to obviously be able to attract the talent, if you will, retain the talent, and unfortunately, with the training aspect, there's another issue as far as you can, I noted on the actual budget there that you can see there's no professional development funds and there's no security awareness training that's allocated. But essentially, the security awareness training is being paid from a general education account, if you will, which, that's been how it's been for years, which frankly, I don't understand why we can't, either transfer that money that's been allocated to, at least understand where the money's coming from and what it's being used for. And the same thing for professional development. There's just nothing there. There's no training that's being provided to these end users from the user standpoint across the board in all the departments. I mean, I just, unfortunately, there's definitely some missing links, and we're, working obviously slowly to correct things, but, a change doesn't happen overnight, obviously. So
yeah. So again, if someone's budget goes over the line, we would request that they submit a more detailed budget. You do that every time. So that's not something that we're
looking at
looking for any more detail. I think you provided You want to touch on the document that John has up here on the screen? Or just to break down anything that you want to touch on in that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned the Office 365, the John, where basically, we started the transition this year and we're hoping to finish the transition, next year, which is why the cost is obviously up 50%. And then the online permitting, like I said, that in itself may be wiped out, depending on if in fact the CARES Act picks up the cost of the online permitting solutions for all the various departments. So, the other, software maintenance, as far as the vendors are concerned, we talk about this every year. I solicit to all the vendors to try and hold steady at what their, pricing is. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. They obviously have to go up. And I know I mentioned this before, but those that have actually agreed to hold steady for the last few years, one of these times they're going to just unfortunately say, we can't, continue holding, we're going to have to increase it. So, I always do the best I can to try and hold things steady and, and do what I can to keep things, steady. I think if you look back, this is the first year in 8 years that the budget's obviously gone up, but would be going up this much, and only because we're trying to add a position. We've added 2 or 3 firefighters over the last few years. We've added staff in other areas, but again, technology wise, we haven't added, a body, if you will. And frankly, I think it's needed. So.
And just basically, when you take time off, if you have a day off or a sick day, or, you mentioned that Frank was sitting in the co-pilot seat, there's nobody there now.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I guess I don't mind getting the calls. I mean, should I be on vacation, with my kids and family and be interrupted, probably not. I don't mind in cases, but it's like, I mean, if it's consistently enough to the point where are you actually on vacation or are you still working, and I guess I shouldn't be into that predicament, and the fact that you're trying to take the time off and yet you can't take the time off.
Rick, I don't think you see Al trying to ask a question.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I can only see 4 people. So go ahead, Al.
Hey, Josh, how you doing? Hey, just a quick question. I noticed you have a lot of police issues, and not police issues, but police budget line items in there. Has that been taken out of their budget, or is it obviously it's part of your budget right now? Have we thought about reallocating, Rick, or even Josh, having the police department incur that?
So I get where you're coming from. In the beginning, and I know I don't think you were around in the beginning, probably 8 years ago when we initially started this venture. But what I've worked with Frank on in the beginning was to consolidate funding from various departments. And I'm sure that some of the finance committee members that have been on, for that long a period of time, will understand and realize what we've done is essentially consolidated expenses from various departments, including police, including fire, and the assessor's office, and so on and so forth. More so, I think, strictly on any type of software maintenance that was being paid out in these, or any type of hardware maintenance that was being paid out within these budgets. We're not sort of in a chargeback model, if you will, to charge back any of the other departments for respective time and material, if you will. I know the state looked at that, I think, before, and I don't know if they're doing that. I know they tried it at one time before, but I'm not sure that, I mean, it's certainly something we're willing to, I guess, take a stab at and talk about, but I'm all about, coming up with ideas to seeing how we can actually, come together to make this happen.
Because I see the police department more often, and then I see maybe 1 or 2 line items for the fire department with the technology here. Do you do much technology work with the fire department?
We do just as much. I mean, there's obviously, we get tablets in every one of the ambulances. I mean, there's stuff behind the scenes that not a lot of people end up seeing unless you're a patient in the ambulance where you see the technology being used. But yes, there's definitely, as much technology going on both sides of the spectrum.
Right, but we don't see it here on your line items, though, correct?
I'm sorry. What are you referring to?
Just the picture I have in front of the technology services broken down. For example,
well, I mean, the police don't. The fire department doesn't have a booking camera. They did have a records management system before they went to IMC with the regionalization. So there was stuff there, but obviously
Right.
Once they regionalized, we pulled some of the stuff off.
Right.
So I don't know specifically if you're pinpointing something specific or.
No, just asking questions. That's all. I'm good. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, thanks, Al.
Josh, I have a question.
Kathleen, you had a question?
Just a quick question about the professional development and security awareness training, the profession, the monies to keep people up to speed. So Josh, you said that in the past it's been funded from, I just wrote quickly, a Gen Ed account. Is there a specific line in our overall Article 2 budget that has these monies? Or is it just money that was transferred over to pay for professional development?
Yeah, no, there's definitely a line that was used, and I actually asked
I
that
think it was
question
education,
before.
right?
Line 9, I believe, in the selectmen. Is that the one?
Yeah, I'm not sure what what the actual total is available.
7,000.
Yes, exactly. So basically, for whatever reason, that account is basically being shared by every department for education. Now, if you ask me, $7,000 to provide education and professional development for all the departments is just frankly not enough. And
Agree.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I think professional development is sort of a key to retaining the and educating the employees.
So is there some way, Josh, that you could get some feedback from the departments on what their educational needs are, if it in fact would add to that line? Or would you like to see it in a different line, and not in the education line?
I guess I'd have to, talk more with, I think, Lisa to determine how it, should feel would be more, acceptable. I think it should be listed in the individual budgets to show what's being used, per department for education, as well as, obviously the security awareness training is critical to our protection for all the stuff that's going on in the world today. So.
Well, I think police have that, have their own education line in their budget.
Right.
And they may,
Right.
yeah, police and fire may be, out of this, spectrum here, but as far as like all the other departments, technology, the assessors, the collectors, the building department, and so on and so forth, I don't know for sure, and I'm pretty sure that they don't. I know that they've paid for classes for Massasoit and stuff like that, I believe, from this general education account.
Right. Yeah, I think the education account, or that line in the selectmen's budget, was specifically for selectmen. I mean, in the past, they have used that line to attend professional development seminars and conferences and that type of thing.
Right. And
I
just like
think
I
that's
said,
why
I'm
that
always,
line is so small.
yeah, I'm always a fan
Limited in its
of
purpose.
yeah, and I'm always a fan of showing the details, if you will. As you know, I've provided details, and I'm not shy about showing where we're actually spending the money. And I feel that it should be allocated appropriately so we can see what the costs are and what we're spending the money on. If it's in a general education account, how do we show you and or the community where the money is being spent if in fact it's in the general education? I mean, other than breaking that down and showing it in details, but within an actual department budget, it's not showing.
Yeah. So I totally agree. I think if there's professional development within a department, that should be in their budget. It shouldn't be lumped in to that line in the selectmen's budget. So I would hope that that's the direction we're going in.
I mean, we're paying, I think, $2,200 roughly a year for the security awareness training. So that's just an example. You take 2,200 and you take that from the 7,000. I mean, you got less than 5,000 there left to spend. So again, it's just one of those things where if it was broken out and each individual department had, their, sort of fair share, if you will, of training to make sure their employees are trained appropriately, then, I think that would be more beneficial.
Josh,
Okay.
those are the questions that I had. I had two questions in regards to the security awareness training. What is it, and is it specific only to the technology department?
Security awareness training is provided to every employee in the town. Basically, we have training modules that they are, assigned every month, and they participate in to, basically stay abreast of what's going on in the world today as far as cybersecurity is concerned, to train them not to obviously click on links and emails, and really to watch what to watch out for. And I can tell you, not to put ourselves on the spot at this point in time, but knock on wood, there have been a number of situations outside of the town as far as to other school districts. I mean, they just ended up closing a school, I think, down in the western part of the state in late September because they were, hit with ransomware. It's just a great example of what we need to do to educate our users to make sure that they're not clicking on links, they're not opening up, bogus attachments. I mean, there's so much phishing email out there. So again, this software allows us to assign the appropriate modules to the employees to track what they're doing to make sure that in fact they're completing them. And then it, provides, consistent, posters and brochures and all kinds of material for us to share and circulate, which again, having another person to be able to work with users on this would certainly be beneficial to actually further educate the group here.
Sorry, a follow-up question. So is security awareness something that IT uses and disseminates to town employees, so other departments don't have a security awareness training cost?
Correct. So there's basically the cost is picked up. Basically, we're paying the $2,200 annually for the subscription, and essentially it's provided to all the town employees. They log in, they see all the materials that they're assigned for the month, and every month there's 2 or 3 modules that are assigned, and it's been working out extremely well. I mean, the participation in the beginning was a lot more than it is now, obviously with the pandemic going on. But again, this is the most critical time. We've got the election going on, we've got all kinds of email being sent out, and there's malicious stuff happening every single day. It's unfortunately the amount of money that we're spending compared to what other organizations have actually spent in the millions or billions of dollars to dig themselves out of the trench, is far, far less.
Yeah.
Hey, Josh, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
As far as the town employees, do they have outside access to email and internet?
The town employees?
Yes.
Yeah, they have outside access. They're mostly the department heads have remote access to the network to be able to access internal resources. All employees have access to email if they wish on the outside.
So they can go out the outside and obviously anything with anything. They're unlimited access, or?
I'm not sure what you get. I mean, unlimited access meaning, we don't restrict when and how employees work. If employees wanted to do work, and check email and stuff like that. I mean, not for the most part.
Do they have access to social media, Josh? I'm just asking. Social media, could they go to any website they want to?
Can they go to any website they want to?
Yeah, any website, yeah.
No, I mean, there's obviously a content filter in place preventing access to, inappropriate websites, inappropriate content, but,
Right.
Do we block social media? No. Do we, restrict certain content based on, someone, department head's request? I mean, if there's something that's being abused or whatnot, then, we can certainly take a look at that, but.
Is that monitored, Josh? I'm not sure if it is. I'm just asking. I work for a national company, and we have basically a lot of internal emails back and forth, the department heads and employees itself. We restrict certain levels that go outside email access and whatnot. So I'm just asking out there, throwing it out there if they do that, because we get a lot of phishing situations too as well, what you're talking about. And my thoughts are, if we're having those situations, and what's the cost of, do we really need it? That's all.
What's the cost of the, I'm sorry, what's the cost of?
Just having outside email access to non-essential employees, not managers above, or below, sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't cost us any more money to provide that
Right.
access. So.
Right.
You're just more or less saying we're opening up ourselves to a little bit more exposure by
Correct.
not limiting their access.
Thank you.
More or less what you're saying, yeah.
Basically, yes.
No, absolutely. And that's one of the major reasons why we're making the transition to, off Microsoft 365 is to obviously be able to provide the additional
Sure.
security features, including 2-factor authentication for all employees to be able to get into your email. I don't know if you're familiar with 2-factor authentication, but it requires, a second layer of security in order to obtain access. So, I mean, we're making strides in the right direction to obviously keep ourselves secure, but at the same time, it's, you got to obviously stay on top of things. So.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Josh? I see Chuck, and then Kathleen.
Hey, Hey, Josh.
Hey, Chuck, how are you?
Good. Hey, just a quick question, and this goes back a little ways since I've been on the committee for a while. With some of that new permitting that might be getting into place for Board of Health and DPW and stuff, you'll probably remember a while back, Commonwealth Connect. It was
Yes.
a little bit of a hot item for a little while.
Yep.
Is that something that would replace that? I know Commonwealth Connect has some other uses. I know it's been used a little bit, but I was just wondering, would the new stuff have the ability to? I know it shouldn't just replace it, but you follow me?
Yeah, no, online permitting is what you're referring to. The online permitting has nothing to do with Commonwealth Connect as far as the service that it provides. The online permitting is more for the building department to do their building permits, the alcoholic beverage for the selectman's office, as well as the Board of Health, the various permits that they have in the Board of Health. The Commonwealth Connect is more of a citizen request system to be able to report, quality of life situations out in the field versus, any type of, permitting. So there's no comparison.
Yeah, well, I remember one of the supporting factors was that could also be used for other things. But just curious, it's been a few years now. Do you have any knowledge of how much use we've still been getting out of that for its main purpose?
Considerable use. I know the DPW still gets requests and deals with stuff. I know the Board of Health uses it quite a bit, and I'm sure they've used it more now with the pandemic. I can certainly, again, check in with the users and obviously check the stats on it, but I know that we're still getting requests. I know we get weekly reports with items that have been opened up and items that have been closed. So
yeah. Okay, great. Thanks.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chuck. Kathleen?
I just have a quick question. Josh, are you asked to submit a report that's included in the annual report? Because I think having some historical documentation of what was asked in fiscal 20, what was asked in 21, what are the burning issues? It's helpful. I'm looking at my copy of the 2019 report. So is the technology department asked, not that you need more work, but to submit an annual report that would highlight what the burning issues are?
Every single year I've included a report in that book, so I'm not sure if you're not seeing it, but it's every year I've put a report in.
Okay.
With the selectman's office that it's included in that report.
I'll look hard for it. Thanks.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, and Ralph, you had a question?
Yes, I have a question. I know on the first assistant, is that total or is that only salary? When I say total, does it also include employee benefits such as health care?
Yeah, sorry,
So
Ralph.
part of your question got kicked out.
Yeah, I missed the first part of that.
Okay, the 65,000 for the assistant, is that total or is that salary only? When
No,
I say
that's total, including benefits.
Okay, that's what I want to be sure of.
Yeah, so that's why, unfortunately, that some people don't realize that, and that's a great question. I mean, certainly, benefits is quite a bit as well. So, I mean, we're not paying, top dollar here, and frankly, we're probably paying lower than we should be based upon the, national average for an employee at that level.
Okay, that answer your question, Ralph?
That answers the question, nothing else.
Thank you. Just one follow-up, Josh, on the online permitting. So is there any other line or on this detailed budget that is eligible for reimbursement with the COVID?
To my knowledge, no. I mean, I suppose we could potentially try, with the additional users for the Microsoft 365. I just know right now they're in a discussion about, what's reimbursable and what's not. And unfortunately, the town has to commit the money, make the purchases, and hope for a reimbursement. I'm not sure if, folks are familiar with that, but, this CARES Act money is not just, granted out there and provided to the town. The town has to physically buy whatever they're looking to buy and then make sure that it's, within the guidelines of the actual CARES Act, and then seek reimbursement. Now, if it's not, if the whatever you're buying is not considered, in response to, COVID or whatnot, then the county can say, no, and they don't reimburse you. So for instance, if you buy something that's, $100,000 or whatever it might be, you're taking a big risk if in fact, because again, there's no yes or no
Guarantee.
until after the fact. So you obviously, have to spend the money. And if you spend the money and then you obviously don't get the reimbursement, you got to come up with the money somewhere because it was already spent.
Right. I know we've got that hanging out there with an ambulance right now, but, if you recall, I did mention that this online permitting, it was kind of dismissed at the opening bell there when the CARES Act first came out about putting this in as a reimbursable because of the fact that, the pandemic limits the access the public has to the building department. So I'm glad that it's now part of it. But like I said, I just hopeful that if there was a way to add anything else in there while the door is open.
No, absolutely. And we're trying, do it the best we can. I know that we have I know you and I had talked in the beginning about the town hall, the front sign out in the town hall. That is a reimbursable expense. So we are actively looking at, replacing that sign with a digital sign. We did get an initial quote. We obviously have to go through the procurement process, which takes a bit of time. And unfortunately, we're under the gun now because we have until December 30th,
Right.
Which doesn't give us much time to turn all this stuff around. So, there's definitely a lot going on.
Great. Well, thank you for taking the time. Anybody else, real quick, have anything for Josh? Again, we appreciate the level of detail that you provide us. Is second to none in any department. I can tell you that right now. But, we'll have additional questions. And as you said yourself, you're going to be updating this in the next couple of months, and it'll look a little different as we move closer to the end of the cycle.
Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate your time. And certainly if there's any questions from any member, feel free to reach out. And I'll keep you updated as best I can with, the information that I get and any revisions that we go through as far as, any information from the CARES Act. I don't foresee anything coming as far as decisions being made on anything probably until late November or early December, which again, it's sort of crunch time at that point. So, if there's any type of further discussion in regards to the permitting, because like I mentioned, even if they do cover the permitting for the 1 year, in FY23, we're going to be looking at, potentially the 15,610 if in fact, they cover that this year. So just something to think about. And that's why I included the actual quotes that were received. So you could, dive into them at your leisure and take a look and feel free to, ask questions or whatnot.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
Thank you once again, Josh.
Yes, thanks, Josh.
Yes, no problem. Anytime. Have a good night, guys.
Good night. All right, that brings us to our third and final budget meeting. Ken, thank you for coming in. We appreciate, before we get to your budget, I just want to say that the information that you have provided this committee at this early stage of the budget process is very much appreciated. We haven't seen this level of detail at the outset since I've been here anyways. So I think more is better for us early out of the gate. And like I said, from all of the projections and, the fact that the Article 2 is in the form it's in now in October is a testament on, your diligence to getting this information out quickly. So again, thank you for getting the budgets, all of them submitted to. I mean, sometimes it's like herding cats, right? So if you want to take this opportunity to review your specific budget, John,
so I
on
just,
the screen for you.
Okay.
So starting with line item 25.
so I followed, unlike some of my coworkers, I followed the email and level funded my line and my assistance line. I know this is a first draft, it's only October, so we'll start here and kind of see where it goes. If it stays there, it stays there. If it goes up, it goes up.
It's funny because the way you said that is exactly opposite to the people who submitted the other way. They're starting high and with the expectation it could stay there. But if you recall, last year, the people that are on this committee saw a budget manager meeting where there was an initiation to reduce the 2% raise for department managers, and it failed, and everybody went up to 2%. So I agree. I think this is the more responsible thing to do, was to keep in the context of the budget mailing, which said level fund your budget, so your salary line. So that's what you did. So.
And I only put the certification in because if COVID can cooperate, which is a big if, I'll be taking the exam this coming March, which I was supposed to take last March, but everything got shut down literally the week I was supposed to leave. And they were revisiting doing it in November out west, but they eventually decided that there was no way for them to do it still, which in hindsight now is probably a good idea. So they're still tentatively planning on having it in March. And then next year I hit the 3-year threshold, which is the other qualification to being certified. So if that happens, that it'll be there. And if there's no exam again, I just got to wait it out.
Okay, so the total line is 1% higher than it was last year, more or less.
Yep.
Remarkable.
Okay, any questions on the budget aspect? Just go ahead, Ralph. Ralph, you're muted.
Yes, I just have a question about that certification exam. What type of certification are you trying to get?
It's the Certified Governmental Accountant Certification, the CGA.
Oh, okay.
So I have to pass a municipal exam and a law exam, or no, the practical exam and a law exam, 2 separate. Odds are it won't happen on the first try, but you never know.
Reason I was asking, it sounded an awful lot like the Certified Financial Planner exam, which is coming up in March. They only do it 3 times out of the year. And you mentioned November, then all of a sudden March. I said, wait a minute, that sounds kind of familiar, but total different.
Yeah, this is a once-a-year deal that they have in March. They have it during spring break at UMass in Amherst. And yeah, I was kind of looking forward to being able to take it and see where I stood, but.
Hey, well, good luck with it.
Thank you.
So this was, in a sense, part of what we were talking in the discussion with Josh about education, where personal development and education should be within the budget of the department. So this one is obviously part of the department budget. Will the completion of this certification then enable you to increase your salary? Is that the goal?
It will, not to my knowledge. It will entitle me to the stipend. I don't know if it will increase the salary.
Okay.
And I'll get the fancy letters at the end of my name too. But and getting back to the education part of it, the fee that I pay to register and any hotel costs come out of that education line. It was only $425 this past year, so it's not a lot. But yeah, that's
okay. So it is an education line, and even though it says certification, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Any questions for Ken related to his budget? Any other questions?
I have a question, not necessarily related to the budget for Ken. So Ken, just for everybody watching at home, the previous town administrator had changed the processes in which department heads have submitted their budgets. And the former town administrator requested that they go through the town accountant and then disseminate it to the FinCom.
Yep.
My question is, are you busy enough with just town accountant stuff? And has this overburdened you at any time?
Only initially. The first 3 months of the fiscal year are usually pretty crazy. with trying to get the year closed, prior year closed and the new year open. And then that kind of flows directly into setting of the tax rate, which, so there are a couple of things that I have to do for that. But then once that's set in mid-November, there's a little bit of a grace period. But I figured I'd want to try to get as much of this out of the way as I could, so that I could have more, working with it more will give me more of a background on what goes in there, and I can do more research with it. B, you guys will have it so that you can see it and spend more time with it, so that there's no last minute decisions that have to be made. And if any revisions need to happen, or if there are any changes that I happen to make, or if anybody sends something in afterwards, I can try and update with it on the fly and just keep it going, so that I'm not picking it up in January or February and kind of scurrying around with it. So far, and this being the first year, it's probably going to be the longest year that I'll have to work with it, because it's just, getting used to doing things the first time. But I'm pretty comfortable with it so far.
Okay, all right, good. And Mr. Chairman, just one comment. Earlier, you made a statement that it was that you believe that professional development should be put in the line item for the departments within the Article 2. I don't know. I don't think this committee has made a collective vote or decision on that. So, I don't think that's really, without a collective decision being on that, I don't think that's really a statement that we could be making at this time.
Yeah, I didn't issue it as a mandate, Dave. I just made a suggestion, that's all. So.
I know, but you got to be careful, because, what I've seen is that other committees, I've seen a member of another committee take hearsay from this committee and state it as fact to another committee, another board, the Board of Selectmen, to be true. So we got to be very careful how we frame our questions and statements, because things are being certain things, at least one time that I've seen, are being misrepresented by other people.
Well, okay. Well, if you could keep an eye on it, that'd be great for all of us.
I will.
Okay, so looking at a couple of the other documents that you sent, John, I don't know if you want to put them up. Do you want to talk a little bit about tax recap? I don't want to get in too deep, but you did send us an awful lot of documents. You got the expense revenue summary here, the current available funds. Anything that you want to talk about initially on the budget, or do you want to try to just, get the information out early and give us a little bit of a template, I guess, so we can follow along? I think it's very helpful.
Rick, I don't have anything that you forwarded to us from the town accountant.
On his Article 2, if you look at the bottom tabs, there was an
okay, all right,
information there.
So, yeah. Okay.
If Ken wants to go to it, that's fine. If he doesn't, that's fine too. But I just want the committee to be aware that the information is there. So if you're looking for, the current available funds, they're all there. The tax recap, the revenue summary, everything is there at that bottom tab. So
right here. So this is what you're talking about. These tabs here. Yep.
So there's a lot of information. See how John's clicking the bottom of that Article 2. There's a lot of additional information down there. So just an FYI, as we move further into the budget process, it's great to have all of these numbers at our disposal. We've never seen, like I said, this level of detail this early in the budget season. So I think, Ken, you said yourself, you have quite a lot of experience with the budget process, but up to now, you really haven't had the ability to, have unbridled control, I guess, and provide this information to us is very helpful.
Yeah, to get my hands dirty, so to speak.
Step on toes. I think you put it earlier on, which is fine.
Yep. Toes have been stepped on.
Excellent. Well, all right. Does anybody else have anything for Ken? All right. Well, we appreciate you being here. And, again, if you are available to pop in now and again as we go through the budget season, to give us an update, refreshed information that was submitted to you, you can certainly forward it to me and I'll get it to the committee.
Yep, if there's any big changes that come up with anything that happens with the Article 2, I'll send it over. And if you need me to pop in for a few minutes to explain the changes, I'm here.
Nice
Excellent.
job, Ken. Nice job, Ken.
Thanks, Ken.
All right, Ken, thank you once again.
Thank you.
All right, so back to the agenda. So looking at budget manager meetings, I have posted the next meeting with the assumption that the 2 departments that are on there will be contacted. So for November 11th, I believe, is the next meeting. November 10th, actually. Police is at 7:15 and the building department is at 7:45. So the building department, Al, you are the liaison to the building department. Have you reached out to Bob to tell him about the meeting date?
I will this week.
Okay.
Okay,
And police, now
same as well.
you're the same.
I'll
So, yeah.
reach out to the chief or his assistant.
Okay, so I've already reached out to Whitman Hanson Cable Access and have got the date. We do have it hosted and we do have it posted, but we just have to confirm that we have those 2 departments coming in.
Now, Rick, were they notified?
Not until you notify them.
Okay,
So that's what I'm trying to hope for, is that the
Okay.
department liaisons can reach
Yeah.
out to the department,
Sure.
introduce yourself and let them know. So just for the next meeting after that will be November 17th, the fire and the Board of Health. And then the treasurer collector and the clerk. Everybody has a copy of the schedule. Does anybody need a copy of the schedule? That way we can stay ahead. I mean,
Yeah.
we should really be giving these people 30 days notice so that
Right.
if they have a schedule conflict,
Sure.
we can put somebody else in that time slot. Otherwise,
Rick.
we're gonna go past, the end of the year with these initial meetings.
Yeah,
So
Rick,
the sooner
Rick
you can
has-
notify them, the better. And-
I will.
And
Rick.
then, so if you can, just CC me, because I'm the one that has to reschedule the meeting if they can't make it. That's all.
All right, so
All right, great.
the next meeting, Rick, with the police and the building is next, what, November what?
It's 2 weeks from today. We
Okay.
can't meet next week because it's the election.
That's right.
So November 10th is our next meeting. And then we're meeting every week after that, all the way up to December 22nd.
All right.
So
Okay.
like I said, if liaisons could get a hold of these
Yeah.
departments by email, introduce yourself and let them know when their scheduled meeting is. If you can't do it, that's fine. If you don't want to
Yeah.
do it, that's fine too. But I need to know so I can notify them. That's all.
No, so Rick, what time do you want the building department in first?
So all the meetings are posted on this schedule. It looks like
Okay,
this.
Can you resend that to me, Rick?
Sure.
Thank you.
So police are scheduled for 7:15
Yeah,
and the building department is scheduled for 7:45. And actually, all of the meetings all the way up to Christmas, they're the same. We
Okay.
have 7:15 and a 7:45 with 2 departments every week.
all right. If you don't mind forwarding that to me, Rick, I appreciate it.
Okay,
Thank you.
so I'll get that schedule. I'll just send it to the full committee again, and that way you have it. And like I said, if you have any problem, you don't have the email for the department head, or you don't know who it is, that should be on this sheet that you have. That shows the liaisons to the selectmen and the finance committee along with the department head. So it gives you the email address as
Yeah.
well. Chuck,
Yeah, Rick, just to let you know, Board of Health is able to make the meeting the 17th. There was a bunch of emails going back and forth. I think you were on some, but I don't think you were on this one because I'm looking at it now, but I got confirmation from them for the 17th
okay.
at 7:45.
7:45, Board of Health,
Yeah.
great.
And also,
And-
while
and-
we're on it, I did reach out to the new recreation director, and we've been in a little bit of text contact. So I'm hoping to speak to her sometime later this week.
Okay,
seeing
they're
she's-
not scheduled to December 8th.
Yeah,
That's good.
she's a little. I think she's a little new to the process. I know she's been emailing with Ken and stuff. So, I want to try to get a hold of her and
Yeah,
see if I can.
that budget's a little wacky.
Yeah, I think she's gonna get
She
some
forgot-
information on the revolving account.
Yeah, she
balances.
forgot about the revolving account, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so hopefully we'll get that going.
Good. It's good to have, like I said, it's good to have someone from the committee that they can reach out to if they have questions. Like I said, they can reach out to Ken too, who's very available. So,
Yeah, that Ken, he's been helping out. I've got some emails, stuff going back and forth. I think it's a great asset having him at this point.
yeah, no doubt about it. All right, Lisa, do you have anything from the Board of Selectmen that you would like the committee to be aware of?
No, none of them had asked me to speak of anything. I can answer any questions regarding the Board of Health reserve fund transfer, if there's any questions on that.
Okay,
Otherwise, nothing to report at this moment.
very good. All right, so the reserve fund transfer, I guess we'll move that next. John, that was sent by email today. It was going to be a line item transfer, but now they have sent a request because of the fact that a line item transfer can only be submitted a certain time in May when the budget season is either about to close or 15 days into it. So the only way that they can receive these additional funds to close the budget gap in their salary line is to have a transfer from the reserve fund. So as you can see here, it's dated the 27th. So they're looking to transfer from the reserve fund an amount of $353. So there's the backup was the same as the line item transfer. And basically the expenditure is extraordinary because the health inspector's 2-week medical leave, the assistant health inspector performed inspections, attended meetings, and some other duties that could not wait until the health inspector's return. So that's why they're looking for this reserve fund transfer.
Actually, Rick, that was an 8-week medical leave.
8-week medical leave. Yes, thank you. Yep. All right. Lisa, do you want to explain any more detail?
No, I think that covers it. Our health inspector was out on medical leave from late August to, and she just returned. And the assistant health inspector was filling in while she was out. And due to COVID as well, hours increased, and they came to us and let us know that there was going to be a shortage in that line. So that's why you have the reserve fund transfer today.
Does anybody have any other questions? Typically, a reserve fund transfer is held over. This particular reserve fund transfer is related to the payroll week ending this week. So I guess there's some urgency that it can't really be held over to next week unless someone really has an exception to moving on it tonight. I will entertain a motion to accept this request.
I move
I'll make-
we accept it.
I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All right, seeing none. John, if you could pull the document down, I can
I am.
then take a roll call. Okay, all in favor, John?
Yes,
Dave?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, thank you. We'll, I guess I'll have to come in, Lisa, and fill out the form because this is a triplicate form. We can't really do it electronically. So I'll come in and sign for the Finance Committee, and I guess we'll move it on to the Board of Selectmen.
Yes.
Okay, I think that exhausts our agenda. Does anybody, Kathleen, did you want to add anything with the Whitman-Hanson Regional District Assessment? Do you want to talk briefly about the comments that are being submitted to DESI from the town of Hanson, or would you rather wait till?
I don't want to comment on the DESI comments. I think it's premature, but I think that as a committee, we should be prepared to have are facts in place in order to rebut any propaganda that might emerge. I only heard some of the stuff on the DESI site because I submitted a comment myself, and it was how should DESI address the issues related to COVID's impact on the education. And there were just a few comments that were talking about financial stuff that I thought was inappropriate. But I think if we're prepared to discuss this as a committee and then go forward with information for the voters to know just what our financial commitments are to the schools, that's where we want to be. We want to be ahead of the game this year, not trying to play catch up after some propaganda is disseminated, if that's in fact happening. I do want to tell you that I did attend the school committee meeting last Wednesday, and they're nowhere ready to discuss fiscal 22 because they're still figuring out fiscal 21. And it's not meant as a criticism. This is an extraordinary year, and so many moving pieces need to settle before they can actually say how many students are being taught by how many teachers in what cohort, what kind of model. But I do plan to attend all of the school committee meetings in person to the extent that I'm able to. And I have communicated with Jeff, and I will be asking him or alerting him to the fact that we'd like a preliminary meeting with him December 15th, I think is the date that we've asked him to come in.
Right, and then if you could also, I know you've got a lot on your plate, but if we could keep this non-mandated busing item on the back burner, I would like to just keep some heat on it until we get to the point where everybody throws up their hands and says it's too late to talk about it this year, and we'll talk about it next year. That's all.
Yep. Well, they're negotiating the bus contract, so this is the year to do it.
This is the time. I totally agree. So if there's something you need from me, or if you need us to make a little bit more of a specific agenda item to talk about it, to put some numbers together.
Yeah.
You know, we have some great resources. Don Byers, one of the school committee members, you know, has done a lot of preliminary work on this. So it's not like we have to start from the beginning, you know?
Right.
So I appreciate it.
Well, I think you really need to get the selectmen involved with that too, because a lot of that change is going to initiate there. And if they're unwilling to move on that, it's going to be tough for us to make. I mean, I'm in favor of doing something with that line too, but we're not policy makers. It'll be up to the selectmen to kind of, or the school. It's got to come from one or the other. You know, it's going to be tough for us to, you know, kind of be the tail to wag the dog. You
Yes,
know,
yeah.
but
But I think it should be an agenda item on the strategic committee's radar, you know, because it is a long-term solution to our, you know, budget shortfall. So,
I agree with that.
all right, thanks, John. Thank you, Kathleen. Anybody have anything else? Dave?
Early on, you mentioned, you know, if we had any suggestions or comments of trying to make this process easier. I think it would make the committee members individually and as a whole, our life a little bit more easier if you were to share what information you discussed in your role as the finance committee with the interim town administrator. You know, any information that you had representing FinCom, you know, I think should be included in our meetings as public information.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Do you care to share?
I have. That's what we talked about. We talked about it already.
All you said that is that you met with the interim town administrator.
And what did we talk about?
I don't know.
Oh, you're gonna have to watch the meeting because I already told you.
All right.
It was about a 5-minute meeting, Dave.
That's all you had to say, Frank. You don't need to be flip.
Frank.
Yes.
If I
Okay, we'll
can,
leave that there.
we just
You know,
basically,
hold on a second, Lisa. You know, Rick, don't start. It's early in the process. All I'm asking is for some transparency from the head of this committee. And
Dave.
every time I ask for it, I get blowback from you. I don't appreciate it.
I will try to handle you with kid gloves, all right?
You don't
Dave?
have to handle me. That's the problem. Don't try to handle me, Rick. just be transparent on what you're doing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Lisa, I'm sorry you were interrupted. Go ahead.
No, I just want to say earlier we talked about the line item transfer for the Board of Health and why we needed to change it to a reserve fund transfer. So that was the content of our discussion earlier. Just how to handle that properly, where it was brought to my attention that there was going to be a shortage in that line on Thursday. So we wanted to make sure we got that taken care of for tonight's meeting. So that's what we discussed.
Great. I
That was
appreciate
the limit of the discussion, Dave.
That was
That
the
was
limit of the
the
discussion.
entire meeting was the substance.
it. Great. That's all you had to say.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Anybody else have anything positive? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay, thank you, Kathleen.
Ralph
All
beat
right,
me
going
to
around
it.
the table, John,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Al,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Thank you all for participating. Have a nice week off. We'll see you back here in November for our next meeting on November the 10th.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night,
Good night,
everybody.
everybody.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
man. Bye-bye.